Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and this video is chock full of good stuff. Let me just give you a quick run through of some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about here. First of all, Thomas Lee of Fundstrat, he says that the next bull run, as far as Bitcoin crypto is concerned, it's, quote, imminent. It's coming. It's on the way, so we're going to cover that. We've got a cool new video of Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse talking. He's giving a presentation. I guess the event was put on by Swiss National Bank, and he's talking about XCurrent, XRapid, and XVIA, so I'm going to touch on that a little bit. We've got a new blog out from Hodor talking about decentralized finance, and he gives a cool example of how XRP could be used, and I'll run through what decentralized finance is as Hodor describes it. We've also got, what is next here? We've got, from Fidelity Digital Assets. They link to a piece, and this is fascinating. You know that Fidelity's been getting into crypto, right? Well, they link to a piece. It's a pensions and investment website talking about how institutional money, it's on the way, essentially, and they're talking about how confidence is gaining as it relates to confidence within the crypto market. So lots to cover here. Before we get going here, though, if you would please delicately tap that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're a fan of Ripple and or XRP, because this is definitely an XRP-centric channel. And I want to say real quick, the channel's been growing a lot quickly, and I've said what I'm about to say in the past, but for any new subscribers out there, yes, my name, Moon Lambo, is stupid. Yes, it is a joke. Yes, I have a sense of humor, so it's not going away. And actually, as my channel started picking up some steam, because it's only been around about half a year, but I posed the question. I started getting nervous. I was like, oh, there are people actually subscribing to this. Should I keep the name Moon Lambo, or should I jettison it up into the atmosphere or something like that and just get something a little bit more professional? And it's clear to me that the broad response was keep it, because it is funny, you know. And so I've never really said this, but I do intend to keep the Moon Lambo as my name. My sense of humor shall remain intact, right? But I definitely appreciate it to anybody out there, whether you like a video or subscribe or even just watch it. Sincere thanks from the bottom of my heart. Let's get into the content now, though. Here's a tweet. This came from Trexia XRP. And he wrote, breaking, in all caps are here, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse giving a presentation on XCurrent, XRapid, XVIA, and XRP for faster payment settlement through blockchain technology XRP. And here's a link to the actual site. Here you can see the whole presentation, which it's mostly a sleeper, except for when Brad talks. There's a lot of different people speaking in this video clip, which goes on for, I can't remember if it was like 2 or 3 hours, but I watched all of what Brad had to say here. And it is fascinating. Now, most of it, admittedly, if you've heard a presentation from a Ripple employee about just the it's like the 30,000-foot view of what they're doing, that's mostly no different. But I'm still learning about XVIA, and it was fascinating to hear the way Brad described this, because he said a few things in a different way, and I'm going to have to paraphrase, but he described XVIA in a way that I hadn't heard him specifically cite before. And it made more sense to me, the way that described it as the way that I'd heard it described kind of in the past, at least by some people. And so that's really wanted to touch on here, because I think that we've beaten to death what XCurrent and XRapid is. You know, I can always talk about that in some other videos for some of the newer crypto enthusiasts, the newer XRP investors out there. But for now, just wanted to briefly touch on XVIA, because what he essentially had to say about this, it was fascinating to me, because he made a neat analogy. It's really all about just standardizing corporate payments, because that's what XVIA is. It's like XVIA, like this kind of oversimplifies it, but XVIA is kind of like XCurrent, but for corporates. It's enterprise, the enterprise version of it. So for businesses, you can think of small companies or big companies like Uber and Amazon, which the Ripple team at various points over the last couple of years have cited as examples of businesses that could utilize this technology and find it to be beneficial. And really what they're talking about is currently the way things are working now, as far as businesses having to move money around the world, it's just as headache for them as it is for individuals that want to move the money cross borders from one fiat currency, convert it to another. And as far as what that means for the actual corporates, understand the problem that they're currently facing today is a lack of standardization. And right now, APIs are being built out in custom settings to facilitate the transactional flows of the funds. And so basically what Ripple's trying to do with XVIA, the way Brad described this, they're trying to standardize that. They're trying to make everything much more simple. And so the way that I look at it is, it's the same thing as, having interoperability among email, which is SMTP, or the backbone of the internet, which is TCP/IP. That's what makes the internet possible, because basically it glues together the internet, which is a network of networks in and of itself. That's what it is. And so they're trying to do the same thing with the flow of money with XVIA. And what's fascinating is, as this presumably will get traction, we haven't really heard as much publicly about XVIA, especially not in the news, but assuming it does get traction, that would bode well for us as XRP holders, as XRP can be used via the XVIA platform. So interesting news, I thought. And again, I'll link this below, so if you guys want to watch this whole thing, feel free to. Now, this is from Hodor. He tweeted out, "Discover why Ripple is including decentralized finance as one of their primary spring targets, along with exclusive bonus content at the end for Coil subscribers." And so I want to touch on just a couple parts of this. It was about the concept of decentralized finance. And so I'll read the very top part here, but then I do want to jump down to the pertinent part. And he considers decentralized finance to be the missing use case, as he labels it. Ripple is the best fintech company for payments, period. Other than their historic and temporary deal with MoneyGram, they focus on replacing the world's payment infrastructure with the next generation of financial technology without directly competing among payment processors. We know about their main use case, cross-border payments, and its massive potential market. Using XRP, Ripple can dynamically source liquidity for members of RippleNet using a service called XRapid. And micropayments, streaming micropayments, represents one of the most exciting, new, and uncharted markets for the technology that Ripple and its Spring partners have developed. Just imagine being paid by the hour and being able to spend that money immediately with no wait time. And so let me jump down to here so we can get into what he means by decentralized finance here, because I found it fascinating. And I haven't really had, and he had a cool example in here of a way in which it could potentially take place, and I hadn't really seen anybody flesh out a concept like this. So since I read through this, I thought I'd share it with you and see what you guys think about it here. So this section is it under other use cases? I just had it on my screen here. Oh, the missing use case. Yeah, sorry guys, here it is. The missing use case. Decentralized finance is the term given to an entire new category of blockchain-based technological innovation. The realization of borderless, decentralized, and censorship-resistant digital assets provides the basis for an entire suite of additional financial applications. Why is this? A simple concept. Nobody can take your XRP from you. If you have the secret key to your account, you control the XRP. It's this core characteristic of cryptocurrency, its decentralized, censorship-resistant nature, that makes it so attractive in the modern age. It reinforces a notion that is considered a cornerstone of human life, the idea of private ownership of property, digitally enforced through cryptography. Property which cannot be accessed by any person or organization that you don't want to provide access. This notion alone is enough of a use case to serve as an adequate foundation of an entire new asset class, and it has spawned a new sector of financial and technological innovations. Some of these involve complete disintermediation of industries and services, and some imply the pending creation of new hybrid assets, securities, and derivatives. Now, this next part is where he actually delves into a hypothetical situation in which XRP could be used within the realm of decentralized finance here. And so first he wants you to understand a little bit further what he is. This is what he's talking about. So he says, what is it? So what's the difference between traditional finance and decentralized finance? Like any buzzword or new term in blockchain, various sources define it differently. Some sources indicate that true decentralized finance has more to do with the lack of intermediaries than it does the use of blockchain itself. This camp emphasizes that decentralized finance means the idea of one person or an autonomous agent directly providing services that would have previously required an in-between person or business. And so here's the example that he's going to cite now that he's kind of fleshed out what the concept is. He cites, for example, if a lender and a borrower can agree on terms directly, they could consummate a contract or loan using a decentralized finance app rather than a bank. Perhaps it requires the staking of a specific amount of XRP for me to receive a loan denominated in United States dollars. That's also a form of decentralized finance, which I find quite genuinely fascinating. For something like that to take hold, I don't suppose that it would be something like that would be adopted en masse prior to the volatility within the crypto asset class, specifically in this example XRP, without the volatility being greatly diminished. I think we're going to need a lot more historical context, frankly, for that level of confidence to be instilled in anybody that would utilize a platform that allows for this type of decentralized finance. So it's a neat example, and I could totally see the world going this way. I just think it could take some time for something like that to be realized. So, nonetheless, I hadn't even heard anybody talk about anything like that that I can recall off the top of my head. I thought it was a neat concept, so I wanted to share it with you, and you can tell me if you guys have any opinions on it. Next, check this out. So, Thomas Lee, Fundstrat. Here's his Twitter page. He got 73,000 followers. He's Mr. Popular. He is at Fundstrat on Twitter. He is the co-founder of Fundstrat Global. I love hearing this guy talk. He's something of a financial wizard, and when he talks, I listen to pretty much everything that he says when I come across it. So here he was on CNBC today for Power Lunch, and he was asked about Bitcoin and this and that, and he was kind of piggybacking off of some of the concepts that Chamath was talking about in a video which I posted earlier today, so I'm not going to go back into that. But his opinion is, look, as it pertains to Bitcoin and crypto, and I'd even say crypto in general, he was basically getting at the concept that it's becoming more mainstream. Those are my words, not his, but that's essentially what he was getting at. He went into, obviously there's, Facebook and with the Libra coin and all that good stuff. But it's really adding credibility to the space. It's adding credibility, and you can argue whether or not Bitcoin's going to be here to stay or not. Maybe it'll stay in power as a store of value. Maybe it won't. But crypto is here to stay, and I think that people are starting to get that. And so at the end of this clip, and this is what I found imminent, because understand that Thomas Lee, he is highly intelligent, and he is not a hype machine. He is not. He just calls it as he sees it. If he sees that something's going to go in a bearish direction, he's called that too, quite openly and quite publicly. And in this case, he quite literally said at the end of this video clip that he believes that all-time highs are, like the bull run, it's imminent. That's the word that he used, imminent. And so, you know what I keep seeing over and over and over again? It's all the big names in crypto. All the big ones that, they're kind of like making crypto, let's say, a major part of their career. Let's say I think of him, I think of, off the top of my head, Mike Novogratz. Everybody seems to think that this is a bull market, despite the recent pullback after the somewhat parabolic move of Bitcoin recently up to 14,000, pulled back to a little below 10,000. Novogratz keeps saying that he believes we're going to be hitting all-time highs by the end of the year. He said he was estimating maybe mid-December to end of Q4 is what Novogratz was saying. And here you got Tom Lee, and he didn't put a timestamp on it, but he used the word imminent. That must be very, very, very soon. Yes. And so, regardless of whether it happens tomorrow, next week, next month, 3 months from now, or the end of the year, these people they're much better in terms of predicting outcomes in terms of price movement with assets in general. Because understand that as far as Novogratz is concerned and Thomas Lee here, their backgrounds didn't start with cryptocurrencies. They didn't just jump in and make a name for themselves, and they're just not hype machines. That's just not what they are. They have a lot of experience when it comes to forecasting and such. So, given that they believe this is the direction it's actually going, and they're considering fundamentals as well. I wish they'd talk more about XRP, fine, because that's my favorite. But they do talk about actual adoption of crypto and acceptance into the mainstream, and that's another reason I think the whole Facebook thing is significant, whether or not anything ever actually comes of Libra. So what's actually going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what, man. If we're hitting all-time highs at some point and it's imminent, whether it's within the next week or 2 or 3 or a month or 3 months, or God forbid it's half a year, whatever it is, because I don't make price predictions, whatever it is, I think that we're going to have something real special coming for XRP price-wise. And I just, historically, we've just seen with XRP, price remains flat for very long periods of time, and then it spikes. And if you're not in your investment to XRP during that spike, you just miss out. Because think about, like I've said before in a recent video, XRP at the beginning of 2017 went from half a cent all the way up to about 40 cents, then back down to shortly thereafter about 15 cents, and it stayed more or less flat around the 20 cent mark for about half a year. And then there were people just like, oh man, this coin, it's not doing anything. I saw people making YouTube videos. There's one guy that jumps out at me, I don't remember his name. He posted a video about his frustrations about XRP when it was somewhere around 25 cents at that point, and it was right before the run up to all-time highs of $3.92. And so I'm not saying this to sway you as in you should buy or not buy or hold or whatever. Just do whatever you want. I'm just sharing my personal opinion without a financial background. I'm just in the XRP community. I like to share my personal opinions, and I research. I spend probably too much time looking into the stuff so that I can make fun videos like this. And so I'm just sharing my opinions with you as a typical Joe Schmo here. But that's how I see it. I think that we have not seen, like, the all-time high of XRP at $3.92. That's not going to be the all-time high forever. That's my opinion. I don't make price predictions. I'm not going to put a timestamp on it, but that's what I think is going to be coming. All right, next here. This is from Fidelity Digital Assets. This, man, I love seeing tweets like this from major entities like Fidelity. Okay, so here's the tweet they put out today, this afternoon. Are more institutions ready to make allocations to digital assets? At Pensions News takes a look at the unique needs of these investors, which include more education about the asset class, sophisticated custodial services, and improved market access. And there are just a few points on this that I want to make, and a couple little snippets I want to read for you. And so the piece starts out here. Let me give you the title here first. Credibility for cryptocurrency seen as gaining, but issues persist. Okay. And it starts out, most institutional investors have yet to jump into the cryptocurrency market, but that could change as the asset class continues to evolve and mature, sources said. Historically, the biggest hurdle has been a lack of custody capabilities, with more retail-oriented custodians like Kingdom Trust and Coinbase Incorporated leading the way, industry experts said. But late last year, Fidelity Investments became the first major player in institutional custody to offer cryptocurrency custody and trade execution operations with the launch of Fidelity Digital Assets. The new entity welcomed its first institutional client in December and has added several more this year, said Tom Jessup, New York-based president of Fidelity Digital Assets. It was demand, and this is a quote now, it was demand from the crypto hedge funds and the other hedge funds that led us to believe there was a market opportunity, and it was with a little bit of conviction that others would follow, Mr. Jessup said. And then here's another quote from him. It is a little bit chicken and egg. Mr. Jessup declined to name clients. And let me scroll down at the bottom, and then I want to tell you why I think this is absolutely gigantic. And you know, you should read this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's too long. But I tell you what, if you read this and you're not bullish big picture, whether or not you're anyone, if you're an XRP or not an XRP, whatever you believe, if you're not bullish about the concept of this asset class having staying power, I mean, somebody ought to slap you up your damn head, okay? Because I think that it's couldn't be more crystal clear the direction in which things are heading. So let me just read this portion for you here, just this little snippet. It's still early to see how institutional demand will take shape, but several sources said they've noticed a distinct change in institutional investor behavior around cryptocurrency assets over the past 18 months. Matthew Hugan, Vice President and Global Head of Research at Bitwise Asset Management Incorporated, a San Francisco crypto asset manager, said institutional investors are now much more receptive to learning about crypto assets. We used to have meetings with institutional investors where there'd be one or two junior people in the room, he said. Now we're having discussions with larger numbers of people in the room, including the CIO. I think that's because the market's been normalized, but also because there's been a huge maturation of the crypto space. Do you hear this? The market has been normalized, and still it's early days, but look at the progress that we're talking about here. And look, the way that this is all going to shake out is if you are an entity that is taking care of your members as as far as institutional money, so you're an institutional investor investing on behalf of your members. There's going to come a time where basically 100% of institutional investors are going to have some level of exposure to cryptocurrencies. Some level of exposure, and exactly what that's going to look like, it's going to take shape over time. I think Bitcoin's going to have staying power for some time. I don't know that it'll be here forever. I just don't. I literally don't. I mean, if it really is going to maintain its status as a store of value long term, okay, cool. If it can really pull that off, I'm not completely convinced one way or the other. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm skeptical, but it may happen. It may not. And I've talked about that in past videos too, so I'm not going to get into it any further right now, at least. But as far as the rest of the cryptocurrencies out there, look, it's going to be, as far as the top 10 in cryptocurrencies that you have today is going to look probably a lot different than it will 5 years from now. It looks today a lot different than it did 5 years ago. There were many different coins in the top 10. You can look back historically if you go to, for instance, CoinMarketCap. You can look at what prices were in the listing in terms of market cap of all coins based on a given month and year, which is a fun thing to do. You should look it up if you've never done that before. It's like using a Wayback Machine, basically. It's pretty cool. But regardless, look, the point is there's going to be exposure from institutional investors the world over, and they don't have to put a crazy amount of money in. They don't have to risk their, the existence of their, they don't have to risk their existence flat out. They don't. They can invest even if it's just 0.5% of their total value, or 1% or 2% or 5%, whatever it may be. And this is what's coming. You're staring at it on your screen right now via this article here, and this is just one piece of evidence, and I will continue to point this out as evidence like this becomes available, because that's what I consider it, evidence. It's an article, but to me, it's pointing in a crystal clear direction, and that's why I'm more sure of anything. I'm more sure that crypto is here to stay, even more sure of that than I am that XRP is here to stay. And I'm an XRP bull. I'm mega XRP bull. I do think it's here to stay. It's probably going to be here for decades and decades and decades, but I'm even more sure crypto is here to stay, because there's something to it, and humans are going to find out which coins, which digital assets it makes sense to build on top of, and that will determine the staying power. And that's also why I'm all about this utility here. So let me continue on with the last piece of this little section here, and then I'll move on to the next thing. But it states, Mr. Hugan, who I just quoted there, declined to provide the firm's assets under management. Michael Sonnenschein, managing director at New York-based Grayscale Investments LLC, which offers 10 cryptocurrency investment products to institutional and retail investors, said it was sometimes tough to get a call back from institutional investors because there were serious concerns about the future of crypto assets and career risk on their end, which is pretty reasonable. I don't blame it. This is like there's no historical context to this. Not really. I know we're a decade in, but I don't blame people for fearing for their careers if they actually delved into it. But it took one first brave person to do it, and so anyway. But so the last few sentences here. Grayscale, which had $1.2 billion in AUM as of April 30th, saw 73% of its first quarter investments, which totaled $43 million, come from institutional investors, 56% of which came from hedge funds. The market is just more ready and receptive for institutional investors than it has ever been. And that's astonishing. And keep okay. So put the pieces together. We're at the beginning of a bull run, and we've got institutional investors that are more receptive than they have ever been before. What do you think's going to happen? And so that's why this next bull run that comes, once it hits the parabolic part. I mean, look, we didn't even hit $1 trillion as an asset class in during the last bull run. Into 2017, early 2018. Not even $1 trillion. It was like 800 and something billion. And the dot-com boom, the boom and bust cycle, that led to $6 trillion worth of a bubble. $6 trillion. We haven't even hit $1 trillion yet, and this is a global phenomenon. So we're nowhere near the end of this. And there's actual utility. There will be things that do have staying power. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. But the point is, we're heading in the right direction. There's good reason to be optimistic. That's just my humble personal opinion without giving financial advice, which I will never do. I will never give financial advice. And this is fun. This is from Peter Schiff here. I just wanted to. It's just fun reading. Anytime Peter Schiff says anything about cryptocurrencies, I'm genuinely entertained. And so he tweeted this out. His initial tweet wasn't even about Bitcoin or anything, but here it's because he's anti. For those of you that don't know, I respect Peter Schiff. I agree with him on all sorts of stuff, but he is anti cryptocurrency anti-Bitcoin. He thinks it's just the world's biggest Ponzi scheme and that it's all going to go to zero. All right, he's wrong, but that's what he thinks. So market's poised to crumble like a sand pile. He writes in his tweet, gold could hit $2,000, and he's got this little video. And then Anthony Pompliano, one of the biggest Bitcoin bulls out there, responds, if gold hits $2,000, what will Bitcoin be worth? And then Peter responds, I'm doing a Bitcoin challenge live on my YouTube channel on Monday night. I'm inviting people to try to change my mind on Bitcoin. Feel free to take a shot. You never know. You may convince me that I'm wrong. My mind is open. And when I read that from him, I started to think, is he already trying to find a way out for himself? Did he already figure out that good old Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies ain't going away? Did he figure it out finally? And now he's like, okay, well, you're wrong, but you can try and convince me. And then it'll like ease his toe, like put his toes in the water, just kind of like ease into the water a little bit. Before he gets fully submerged in all this. It just makes me wonder. We'll see. Could we actually see a Peter Schiff in the future that is pro-crypto in any capacity? I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it made me wonder when he said that, so we'll see. Because he hasn't sounded remotely open to the concept previously. And so then he continued to note... oh, actually, I'm not going to read this. Doesn't really matter. He was responding to somebody else about his YouTube channel. It's unrelated to the crypto point primarily. But then one of my favorite XRP YouTubers out there, Digital Asset Investor, responded to Peter. Hi, Peter. The only point you need to hear is XRP. It was never Bitcoin. Bitcoin only got digital assets through the door. XRP is the one and always has been. Go to ripple.com and look around. I've been following you for years, and I'm a big fan. And I've been a big fan of Peter Schiff for years as well. And I've responded to Peter Schiff. He's never responded to me, and I'll be surprised if he responds to Digital Asset Investor either. But I pointed out, I was like, look, the reason digital assets are here to stay, and I have an answer different than what I've ever heard anyone state, but my answer for why digital assets are here to stay is that you can build businesses on top of blockchain technology, which have native digital assets. Like XRP, for example. You can have entire businesses that without that technology could not exist. And you'd have to be nuts to think that humans aren't going to put a price on those finite digital assets as a result, the ones that are actually getting adopted because there's real utility. If you don't think that that's going to happen, then you're cuckoo in my mind. It's coming. I could be wrong about XRP, but I'm not wrong about that. Crypto is here to stay. And I don't think I'm wrong about XRP. I'm XRP bold. But just saying, that's my answer. That's exactly what it is, and that's what I want. I want to say that to Peter Schiff and just hear his genuine response, because I'd be very curious as to what a possible retort to that could be. I don't think there could be an intelligible retort to that anyway. So that's my 2 cents. And then here's this tweet from Michael Arrington. Early this year, some people were predicting Bitcoin dominance would hit 70% again. Those people don't look as crazy as they used to. And you can see here Bitcoin dominance, as he posted this earlier this afternoon, 64.3%. Well, I never thought that they were necessarily crazy. Nothing in the crypto space surprises me too much. But I will say it's not going to stay like that. You're going to have a fleshing out of... that's not even the best way to word it. I'd say you're going to have a maturation of the asset class, and the way in which people invest is going to change as individuals and institutions continue to further parse out which cryptocurrencies, digital assets actually have staying power based on utility. And like I've said recently, and I just in a very recent video I cited David Schwartz, Ripple CTO, talking about this concept too. He just stated, right now the market just doesn't want to parse it out. It's too early on. It's more like people are just betting on whether or not crypto as a thing, as an actual new technology, has staying power. That's what they're really betting on, and I think that's fairly reasonable. It's not exclusively that. It's just that there's a minimal amount of utility being based on determining buying and selling patterns. That's all that is. So, but anyway, as more cryptocurrencies prove their worth, I think XRP is going to be one of them, and prove their staying power, you're going to see this dominance in Bitcoin drop. Assuming Bitcoin even has staying power, it's not going to stay at the 64%. It should be substantially less than half of the crypto asset class in terms of market cap. So I don't know how low it's going to get, but as a percentage, I mean, even if you had 5 highly valued long-term digital assets that really have staying power, I mean, 1/5 of that's 20%, So we'll see, because I don't know how many cryptocurrencies are going to have staying power, but you don't necessarily need that many. And unless you have an extreme level of interoperability between all of them, I see most of them going away because they're just not necessary. So anyway, that's it. Oh, except for this one. Actually, this made me laugh. I'm just going to close out with a fun little thing here. I like to do that when I come across something that makes me chuckle. This is from XRP Crow, and he put together XRP community poster, which I covered in a recent video. He puts out put all sorts of the cool community graphics, stuff like that, and quotes. And so he tweeted this out. XRP investors and holders represent a really, really, really small percent of all people in the world who have been invested in XRP digital asset, less than 0.02%. So I guess we could call ourselves the XRP pioneers. And this is the part that made me laugh here, though. He's got this graphic he made of an XRP community member who goes by XRP Neo. He is at XRP_Anderson. And here's the graphic he put together. If my computer would load. It says, "This is a tweet to myself in the future. Congratulations!" And so you did it. You held XRP. So I like that. But that's all I got for this video. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I really appreciate all the support. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Take care.